Gen C podcast. Welcome to the Gen Z podcast. I'm your host, JP Jackson, and today we have Courtenay in the building. Welcome, Courtenay.
Hello, everyone. It's me, Courtenay.
For those that do not know you, who is Courtenay?
Okay, I am Courtenay Luckay, also known as Courtenay sometimes, known as Courtenay. Often, my parents struggled a bit with the spelling of my name. So my birth certificate had a different spelling to what they told me the spelling was, like for a very long time. And then when
But it wasn't like a combination name, like a...
No.
Oh, okay. So it was like supposed to be Courtenay.
Yeah, so say it as Courtenay, spelled as Courtenay, but spelled Courtenay on my birth certificate. Yeah, very complicated. So whatever you'd like, you know. But sometimes also I like to go by Courtenay Love Makeup.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I really love makeup. Obviously, and then also Courtenay Love, was a very wild and interesting figure. She was Kurt Cobain's betrothed and baby mama, so I just think she's such an interesting person. So that's where the inspiration came from.
All these personas growing up, or is these just things that you picked up along the way?
I did, yes. There's so many facets to who I am. And there's so many things that I'm interested in. There's so many just personalities that's inside of me. Yeah. It's and I think that goes for everyone. A lot of people put themselves under pressure to just be the same person all the time, and they don't let themselves go a lot of the times, you know. You don't need
just
to
be
stick
you.
to one idea of who you are. You can be anything you want to be.
Okay, you don't need to go dive into the inspirational quotes. We'll give you an opportunity to do that.
Okay, sure.
So you went to school at the Settlers.
Yeah.
And they obviously, it's a cultural dynamic as well as academics. You decided to go, when you left school, you decided to do a very academic route through actually going to study medicine.
Yeah.
What was your thought process in deciding that?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer that question in a bit of a roundabout way. I'm just going to give you a bit of my background, what was my family, home environment and things like that. Okay. Because I think that really fed into what I decided to do. And my parents, they actually met in Bible school. So yeah, I was always exposed to Christianity and particularly evangelical Christianity. So that really fed a lot into who I was, because I was always taught to fear God and always taught to respect Christians. And my dad pastored a church, and my parents were very, very involved in ministry. But on the other hand, that comes with that is a lot of financial struggles. So, yeah, I had a lot of experiences where we just weren't very well off at all. I grew up in Malibu Village, and, everyone around me was in the same struggle. So I didn't really see anything different about it until I went to school. So my parents also placed a high value on education, and they made an effort to send us to schools that were outside of the area that we lived in, because they felt that if we went to former Model C schools, you mentioned the other day in one of your podcasts, was and they still call it that, guys. What is up with that? It's genuinely an apartheid term. Why do we still...
For premium education.
For premium education, yeah. And then anyway, so I went to Labian's primary school, which was actually such a fascinating experience, because we had teachers there who really played around with the curriculum, and they would let us play on the field sometimes. And if we colored in really nicely, they would give us 17 out of 10 for projects. So very interesting interesting, but such a great experience, And then when I went to the Settlers High School, I really struggled in particular subjects, but all in all, I really excelled academically, like in primary school and in high school, blah, blah, blah. And at the Settlers High School, there was a lot of focus on academia. So I think a lot of people in South Africa can also relate to this, because a lot of our schools are set up in the way that we have sets and top sets. And if you are in a top set, you
in the
get
slipstream. You then get all the good teachers, you get all the great things. Yeah.
And then you just feel great about yourself. Like you just, even if you like slutting bees or whatever, like you still like, I'm good, I'm Gucci. And when I was in grade 9 choosing subjects, I was like, I want to do history, I want to do Xhosa, I want to do English, because I was super into English, like very into reading, like would read so many books, and was like really obsessed with literature and art and things like that. But I was also good at science. And I will say, unfortunately, and it's just like, I think a lot of people had this experience, but I was pressurized to take science as a subject going into grade 10, and like called to the office, and said like, why are you choosing these subjects? Like, don't you want to choose these subjects? Because, we are maths and science school and blah, blah, blah. So, so then I was just like, I was kind of really excited to last physical science and like, okay, I'm interested in bio, but like, let's go with it, know? So I went with it, and then for some reason in grade 11, they make you choose what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And then in another one of your podcasts, I heard you say, like, in our culture, like a lot of the, the vocations that are available to us, or the things that we are aware of, is teacher, doctor, accountant. And so I was like, I love God. I want to help people. Like my whole upbringing, like focused on, serving people, and that every soul is important. Like, okay, what can I do? I'm going to try and go for medicine. And so I applied, and lo and behold, to my surprise, I got in. But honestly, it was just like, I didn't do lots of research on what I could do. Back then, the internet was a thing, but like, I don't know. We weren't like that active on the internet. Like I wasn't confident enough to do like my own research and actually explore what is out there. And at school, they tried to expose us to different things. Like they said, okay, go job shadow here, go do this and that. But when you're younger, you do like take into consideration others' opinions of you and like what would be best. And because of the way I grew up, it was very much like, no, this is great. Like you got in, so go for it. You know, you cannot.
You're the chosen one.
Yes. And honestly, that's how it was. Like in first year, the first lecture we had, they were like, clap for yourselves. Like you made it into medicine. And then I was like, oh, thanks, okay. But like, this is where the difficulty starts. So funnily enough, when I was in first year, I then failed science. And this was now physical science. And it was like, my world went go, 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 go. Like, I was literally like, oh my God. Like, what's going on? Like, I failed something. And, it's like, sounds funny, but honestly, it rocked my identity. And then I started to question everything. Like, do I listen to other people? Like, do I take other people's advice? Like, should I listen to my parents? It was just like such a transformational experience. But I was still so stuck in what I could do and what I could be. And so even in my psyche, I was like, no, this is such a good opportunity. Like, don't pass it up and just continue. Like, why not continue? Because even though you failed one subject, you can go into an extended program, which adds another year to your studies. but you in medicine. Like no one else gets this. Do you know?
Yeah.
JP,
Yes.
do you know?
Do you know?
Do you know there's so many people who want to be doctors?
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, cool. Like I'll stay in it, you know? So that's how I ended up studying medicine. I know that was a very long answer, but
no, but it's good that you give us the backstory and then explain the decision making, because someone might also be in that situation, might also only know 2 or 3 career paths and end up doing something that they don't necessarily want to do. Also appreciate the fact that you're dropping a lot more pod references. So like
guys, watch more.
So you touched on it that you actually were in the program. You then failed physical sciences and then started a whole different alignment in that you didn't want to do medicine or started to see medicine as not a career for you. And a lot of people just feel like once they're in it, like you say, they just need to stay there. But you got to a point eventually where you said, this is actually not for me.
Yeah.
Do you mind just telling us what was going through your mind then?
So I think like a very big deciding factor was my mental health. Because listen, like the schedule with medicine, doing like 24-hour calls and then still like, you know, life happening around you was really difficult. And I had never really struggled with mental health before. So, you know, a lot of people experience this where you go to university and like literally all your skeletons come out. It's like, oh, you do this, like you do that. Like it's literally where your mental health is tested a lot. And I think like people that didn't study, they can relate to that in the working world. Like, you know, it brings out a lot of your little skeletons. And all of a sudden one day before an exam, I just had a panic attack. And now I can look back.
Was this your first one ever?
Yes, this was my first one ever. So it was like my brain just went blank and I just couldn't stop crying. Like I was just crying and very hysterical about the fact that I'm going to fail and I'm not going to make it. And this was when I was in 3rd year. So up to that point, I was now passing each year and making it through. But at university, there was a lot of struggles, you know. And as I said, like, I knew what it was like to struggle financially. And even though my parents worked really hard and they left the ministry, they got jobs, I was very aware of the situation and how much debt I was accumulating, how much study debt I was accumulating. So that was another pressure on me where I felt I can't leave this degree. Like, okay, I'm passing, so now I need to pass so that I can get this job so that I can pay off my debt.
Yeah.
Like, what a vicious cycle, guys. So it was just very, very strenuous, very emotionally draining. And then I lost a couple of people in 2017 and then I decided to take a break from studying. But that made things so much worse because I got so depressed being at home, not being active, like having a pause on my studies and just, you know, not doing anything that was fulfilling. And when you are depressed and when you have anxiety, it's sometimes really difficult to realize that you're depressed. Like you just feel so confused. You feel your brain's going blank like a lot of the times. Like you're not interacting with people the way you usually would. And you can't bring yourself to do things. Like your brain is literally going go the whole time. Like if I could just describe it in actions. And then like, you know, it's just a lot, guys. But then at the same time, I didn't accept the fact that I was depressed. It was so odd because I knew there was something wrong with me, but I was just like, no, I'm
Yeah.
fine. Like, okay, my grandma died, who was like a second mom to me. No, you're fine. Like, oh, you can't spend time with your family because you have to be at school.
Yeah.
Like, you actually can't leave. Oh, people are protesting. You are protesting because you want free education. You know what it's like to be at school every day, and you can only focus on the fact that, like, your fees aren't paid and like they might block off your card like anytime. And I mean, I had this experience at primary school, in high school. You know, our parents and us go through a lot to just get a better education because we feel that that's going to be the key that unlocks life. Yeah, exactly.
So what was the approach to you when you started vocalizing these feelings? Because I know, like, from my mother's perspective, my mother also suffers from depression. And when she mentioned this to her family and said, I'm going through this, it was almost like, oh, but what is that? That's all in your cup. What's happening there? What was your experience like when discussing that with your family?
So my experience was very positive in a sense that I could see like everyone was really stressed about it, but they were very much empathetic. They were like, okay, you know, you depressed, so, but it's like, now what? Now what you gonna do? Because like you're still in a degree, you know, and like there's shit that needs to get done, basically. Like, are you gonna pause your life? But people are generally very empathetic, but I think they also look for reasons. Like, they want to know, like, what did you go through? Like, why do you feel this way? And, you know, then that opens the door for being vulnerable with people that, you know, might not have the kind of reaction that you're expecting. And so when you open up about your mental health, it does sometimes open the door for more questions, more investigations into what you're doing and so on. But, you know, I think a lot of people experience it like across this lifelong journey. Like, I've seen a lot of people with anxiety as well that wouldn't describe anxiety.
Because they don't necessarily have the words to say that that is what it is. Like, I have this feeling, I feel a certain way when doing this, but all the signs point to anxiety. But it's almost like they don't know what that is. They don't know, they don't recognize that it can be that and acknowledge that it is that. And then work towards getting better or building like processes to kind of deal with that. And like you said,
my voice just was like,
and like you said, opening up, especially amongst each other, allows for that collaboration, that communication, so that you can also improve. You can also see, this is what's happening in my life and how do I deal with it.
Vulnerability is such an important tool for connection. And I think a lot of the times we all acting as ourselves.
Because you've got 3 characters.
Yes, exactly. So I'm either acting as Courtenay or Courtney or Courtney Love Makeup or whatever it is. But that's the beautiful
each one of these
thing.
have Instagram accounts. Just
No, there's 2. There's 2.
We'll give you an opportunity to plug them.
No, but that's only for a reason. You know, that's another thing. I'm so glad you bring it up. Because I think, you know, we've all watched The Social Network, guys. But, like, we don't even understand how much, like, smartphones and the internet and, like, the things that are at our disposal distract us from, like, how we feel. Because I've experienced this where I didn't like quiet. Like, I couldn't really deal with things being quiet. And that was a manifestation of my depression or my anxiety, because I needed something else to focus on so that I wasn't focusing on what was going on inside. So, I don't even know what your question was. But, like, honestly, we just had it all,
we were just plugging your Instagram handles. So then you got out of that and left medicine, and now you're on a different journey, which looks very positive and you very bubbly. And where are you now that made you in such a solid place?
Yeah. So with medicine, like, I enjoyed it to an extent, but I realized I don't want to spend my entire life working. I want to do things that I enjoy and like can get fulfillment from, basically. And I've always been super into makeup. Like as a little girl, my mom used to sell Avon, she's in the,
and
yeah,
Tupperware?
she's a, no, she didn't go there, but she sold Avon, she sold honey. I think she possibly did even sell Tupperware. Like, what didn't that lady do? Anyways, but like I've always been super into like that expression of artistry. And I recall when we those little career days that they have at school, there were these people doing special effects makeup. And I was like, I can't do this. I'll be wasting my life because I might not be able to actually make money from this. Like I thought very much in terms of like, what can I do that's fulfilling and that will also make money? But it's important to think about the financial aspect of things, but like we aren't products. Like
we're human beings.
Yeah, we're human beings and we need to be a bitchy, So I finally had the courage to step away from that degree because I realized like if I'm struggling now and I hate this now and I became depressed, like I was very anxious, having panic attacks, and I realized like, sometimes you have to have the courage to step away from something, even if it's a good opportunity, even if you have like the fullness of your identity in this thing because you don't have time to do anything else. Step into the unknown because that's where, life begins a lot of the time. And so I just decided like, I'm going to leave university. My parents were very like stressed about it, but they were so loving and empathetic towards me. And I'm very, very privileged and grateful for that, that I had parents that were understanding. And sometimes, they can be like, okay, what now? Like, are you going to study another thing, That's a question that I get all the time. Like, okay, so have you ever thought like, okay, you're in financial services now, so you're going to study accounting, like, and then you're like, no, I'm doing my job and I do makeup on the side and it's fun and I'm enjoying life and that comes with its own stresses. So, yeah, I'm just, very confident in what I'm doing because I'm finally on a path that I chose. Because before I was listening to everyone else around me.
I mean, that's great because I've also been doing this now for a little bit and doing the numbers every day. And I do feel the two complement me as a person because I do like have a professional life as well as the things that I enjoy doing like this. And of course, spending time with my wife.
So, shout out to Katie.
So for me, it then gives me the holistic view and also spending time with the Lord. Like those type of things keep me grounded and makes me feel like that's the best version I can be. And that just sets me up for a better life.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to do some quick fire questions before we just end off. So I'm going to give you like two things and you decide which one you like prefer. Okay. Samosas or pies?
Okay, I've obviously watched this podcast, but like they both give you indigestion, guys. It's like very intense. Like, when are you eating the samosa? Like, when are you eating this pie? You need to choose the time. So I choose none. Like, neither.
Great. Motorbike or car?
I don't have a license, guys. I've had like 4 learners. I'm not even like
all of them though. You need to like
yes, I definitely
choose one.
Definitely car.
Because not the car or the bike's gonna give you indigestion.
Very true. Very true. Yeah.
So
no, definitely a car. Yes, definitely a car. I'm like safe in the little car.
Is there any specific car that you like or not?
I like cars that get you from A to B. Like that won't break down. So like I like red cars. Yeah, and that's what I like.
Nice.
I really don't know anything about cars. Like, clearly, yeah.
Koesister or Dunkin' Donuts?
Sister.
Okay.
Like, hands down.
Yeah. No debate.
No debate. No debate. None at all. I mean, whoever wants to debate, we can fight. Like, meet me outside.
Again, the last one will probably also give you indigestion, but Gatsby or Wembley?
I would say Gatsby.
Okay.
Like, Gatsby's are just so delicious. And like,
It feels like
especially
you're traveling
masala
like to a
steak.
moon now. Okay? Then all you hear is like stars, Gatsby's.
Like Gatsby's. Like 5 Gatsby's. No, definitely Gatsby.
Yeah.
There's Rennie's for that indigestion.
But you won't take it for the samosa or the pie.
No, it's so small. A Gatsby, at least you know you're gonna get a portion, and then you can suffer the consequences.
Yeah.
But for one little
For one
samosa,
little. It's not it. It's not it. So then, the one thing we like to close off with is, if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would that be?
So the advice that I would give to myself is have self-compassion, because a lot of times we're taught to have empathy for other people and have, compassion for other people, but we're not taught to like cradle that little inner child and tell them, it's fine. Like, you've been through it, and sometimes it's time to take a step back. So I would say, like, have self-compassion and also take action, because you don't want to harbor too long on a decision, and then, life is going to pass you by. So just like enjoy every moment, have self-compassion, and take action.
Hey!
Yeah.
So, thank you very much for coming through, Courtenay, and all the personalities, and for sharing your story with us. And from my perspective, I really appreciate that you were so open about it, and that we can have conversations like this openly, because we shouldn't be hiding away the way we feel and keeping that inside, and start making decisions that's best for us as a human being, like you said, not a product.
Not a product. Yeah.
So if you like the content, like, share, subscribe, and we out. Peace.
Bye.